On Chrome here in Trekland HQ, and we are live. But would you name a starship for them, Star Trek? Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live. In fact, it is a Trekland Third Tuesdays Live today with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and everything Trekland for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in everything Star Trek. So welcome back, all TTLers, and any of you new folk who have managed to find us here on our Tuesday afternoon niche. Wow, we've been coming up on this. We've been doing this for almost 5 years now, every Tuesday, by some technical wonder. And I'm glad for everybody to join us here. If you are new, hang on. I've got a soapbox to get off onto, a real soapbox today. And then we'll take a short break. We'll look at the Parrot Analytics ratings, some little interesting wrinkles today. And then we will get to the chat for sure by then. Now, if you're on Twitch with me or anything, just know that I'm not going to get to the chat until that time. So I'm not ignoring you. Hang in there, everybody. Okay. And if you're on Facebook, you're only seeing the Facebook comments, but YouTubers and Twitchers are seeing everybody. Just letting you know that. We've got a great show today, great topic, and I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit. First of all, make up a little ground. Last week, the news was barely breaking, but I wanted to pitch in, even though a few days have gone by, and say yes, pay homage, pay memoriam, pay all the props in the world to legendary visual effects producer and director in his own right, Douglas Trumbull. Cut his chops on the revolution that was 2001, A Space Odyssey in 1969. And then, was part of the Star Wars revolution, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Maybe if you go back and look at it, the guy who saved Star Trek the Motion Picture, maybe saved Paramount because all the millions in guarantees Paramount had made to local theaters, to all the theater lines, with penalties guaranteed if they didn't make that December 7th premiere date. And not only the troubles inherent in the production, but when Robert Abel and Associates promises blew up, never should have given him more than a 7-Up and a jeans commercial to do. Those were cool. But we were talking about a whole order of magnitude difference. So Doug Trumbull comes in, hires his old friend and rival, John Dykstra. The two of them have everybody and their grandma working in Hollywood to do anything to get the damn visual, pre-CGI, analog visuals done. May have slowed down the movie in bits before they could be edited in the redo and the director's edition and the can't wait to see it 4K edition coming. But that was Doug Trumbull's list. And I want to say, on top of all that, I didn't realize it at the time, but just for me personally, aside from all those obvious credits, the very first movie, not that this was a plan or anything, but the very first movie I ever saw at an actual convention where I was actually staying overnight and wandered into the film room when those used to be a thing, was his ecology classic Silent Running, where it was so visual effects laden that Doug won the right to direct the thing. And it was Bruce Dern and drones, robots that were cute, long before the droids of Star Wars. This was 1972, so 5 years before Star Wars. Huey, Louie, and Dewey and Bruce Dern were the whole movie. And the plants that they were saving on a spaceship apart from Earth after Earth had a bio-cataclysm. So yes, wow, our hats off to Doug Trumbull and the revolution. And just as recently as the last couple of years, I'm so angry at myself that I didn't get in to see the panel that that Mike and Denise and Doug, etc., did with him to commemorate 2019, the 50th anniversary of the motion picture, 40th anniversary of the motion picture. I could kick myself for not being there. Fortunately, it's on video. Never had the pleasure to sit down with him, never overlapped assignments or moods, but that's it. Now, of course, all the accolades, all the memorials coming in were more than warranted. You'd expect them, right? But one popped up, and it's somebody who I adore. We've talked briefly. Hopefully, we'll talk some more. But it triggered something. This is during the European Portal 47 roundtable last week, during our Ask Dr. Trek with our members. And this popped up again, and it got me off on a tangent, and I thought I should share this in public. Because mention was made by Dave Blass, who's the art production designer, head of the art department for Picard season 2 and 3, and as we've seen, a dyed-in-the-wool fan who's sharing so much ahead of time. The secret's out of the closet. It kind of broke wide open during our 25th anniversary First Contact panel last October, which is now up if you want to go find it. And we're going to be pointing to this a lot as Picard moves along, but basically he had some kind of reaction of, yes, we all applaud Doug Trumbull. We all love his career. We all bow down to all the revolution that he helped lead, the leadership, the creativity that he helped display, the people he inspired. So we're going to name a ship after him in Star Trek. And it brought up this old bugaboo of mine that in one form or another has been around for a long time, which is, I know it's lovely, and I know we want to honor our pioneers. We want to honor our loved ones, their creations and themselves. I just have this thing about honoring real people in canon universe Star Trek. Now, it goes back to, let's just say, Discovery, freshly arrived in the 23rd century, the 34th century, 33rd. Third season Discovery. Oh, look, there's the USS Nog. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, look, there's the USS Janeway. Cool, cool. Oh, look, there's a ship that's the Eisenberg class, meaning somewhere there's also a USS Eisenberg. Not so cool. And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we all love Aaron, and he was tragically taken from us far too soon. And we love the character Nog. So my point is, then fine, have a USS Nog. And you're naming it for Nog because why? He was the first Ferengi in Starfleet? Sure, cool. We've even got a reason. And I'm not naive enough to know that maybe in 800 years, there's a reason to have a stalwart Starfleet or Federation namesake named Eisenberg, who's worthy of having a ship named after him, an entire class even. So that's not a reason. That's a texture, not trivia. That is a, whew, we've got wiggle room to do this. But this instinct to name things after real life people that are nameworthy, totally nameworthy. This isn't about the honoree. It's about the idea. And maybe this is my old man screaming on the lawn, hey, get off of me, you honorary bearing kids. Name the character. That's cool. Now, if it's a producer, creative, that doesn't have a character to fall back to, I still don't like it. And I know you're going to say, Larry, what about that shuttle, that Type 6 shuttle that they named for Bob Justman during Next Generation? And he loved to, I've got it over here somewhere. He had a photo of him leaning out the window in the front, and he used that to sign with when he did his rare signings. I know. In fact, I'll go one better. There are two small, in cause and effect, when they show the primary shuttle bay being blown out on the D. They're going to decompress the shuttle bay, and you get that much of it. It was such a quick look that it wasn't worth building an entire set. So they used a Strathmore board. That set that you see for a blink of an eye is an actual full scale, not the stage set, which was always Shuttle Bay 2 or 3, the smallest of the 3 shuttle bays. But they tried to attempt to show the full scale main shuttle bay that was almost the width of the back end of the saucer on the D. They did it with cardboard, cut it very quickly. I know this because one wall of it used to sit in Guy Ardeman's office at PDE, and it was cool. But you know, it was flat because you had the protrusions, you had the high bay with the railings, and the homage to the original Enterprise hangar deck looks with the doors to the side. It looks very cool for that 2 or 3 seconds. But you see a couple of shuttlecraft parked on that hangar deck, on that shuttle bay, and those are 2 little Type 6 models, lettered for the Berman and the Pillar. And it's cool because today Sandra at, Michael's widow, has that little shuttlecraft sitting out on a shelf. One time I was over and got a chance to go take a lot of pictures. So, yes, you're going to tell me this has been done before. In fact, full disclosure, so many of the acutograms used to have the crew names, still do, I'm sure, the ones that aren't on camera. You could go see a star chart. You could go see, I know the little 2 and 3 letter little acronym name letter combinations on buttons were people's first 2 letters and first 3 letters of their first and second names. You saw people with so-and-so star and so-and-so's planet and so-and-so world on the acutograms all through TNG. That died off. That started to die off. You saw honorary names in astrometrics that are now HD visible. The West Wing cast misspelled. I mean, yes, all of that's in there. It's all real world intruding on. It's all, sometimes it's just an in-joke, much less an honorarium. But the Justman and the Berman and the Pillar were not going to be seen. They weren't going to be seen. They were, that whole level, the pre-HD world had all of that reduced in size where people on stage visiting might see it, like the rubber duck or the Nomad on the cutaway in Engineering on the D. That was meant to be seen as a treat for the crews to kind of lighten their load in a long 16-hour day. No, they weren't meant to be in your face as fans. Although, we dribbled them out, and now Memory Alpha's going to town on all of them. But they weren't in dialogue. Now, I could be wrong. There could be one out there I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But that's the kind of thing that there would be a bright line between dialogue and in-joke, no matter what resolution your film was being shot at, pushed to the back. Now, look, totally full disclosure here. If you go back far enough, if any of you ever saw or had a copy of the original star maps from 1980, which were meant to correct and, fix and tweak the star maps that were in Franz Joseph Schnabel's original tech manual. Yes, there are like 2 or 3 pages in there where his scale for the Federation and the adjoining Klingons and Romulans was so huge, it would never fit. This was the first attempt to rein the scale in where it would halfway begin to make sense. Halfway. With the warp scale formula and the Cochrane constant, which we later started calling the Cochrane variable, which was the ultimate fudge factor to basically make whatever you know about the classic formula or the classic formula with a variable that depends on the local density of space and matter. Whatever you do, it was meant to give you a fudge factor. But those maps, there's a back wall of maps here. And yes, my good buddy Jeff Mandel, who's worked professionally on Star Trek and who wound up later doing the Star Maps book that we kept building on with Stellar Cartography 1 and 2. Those maps that I just showed, there is a back page that's very scarce on Canon stars, and Mike does populate this with all kinds of stars, Pal's World and Disney's World, and there's one star, THX 1138. There's a lot of sci-fi homaging, not even Star Trek, but sci-fi homage, genre homaging stars on here. And I have to say that this is not the original project that my stars to correct and fill in what Franz Joseph had done. My first iteration, I had worked on, and then Jeff put it into his format to be part of his tech zine, the Officer's Manual. And when this project came along unexpectedly, which is a whole saga in itself, we decided not to publish what we'd been working on, but to flesh this out. Well, being in a different scale, nothing suddenly made sense. So to make it up to me, one of those stars that he named after someone, there's a Nemechek star. And if you go to a couple of my Facebook, if you go to My Star Media, the Facebook page, the bit up there is the Nemechek star in there. So it was years of being kidded at. I'm talking about when I was in grad school and in, first job. I'm talking about a long time ago, pre-TNG, obviously, in the movie era. And anyway, I had a lot of friends. Hey, Larry, show those kids your star. I couldn't go to a convention with friends anymore. We'd be hanging at dealers' tables and somebody would demand that I tell somebody the story about my star. Well, not only was that embarrassing for me, but I didn't like it. It was my name on a piece of published Star, ostensibly licensed. Well, it was licensed from Bantam back in the day, but I did not like it. I called all of those. I called all of them, no matter who they were for. I called them patronage stars. We didn't have our modern vocabulary, and I did not like it. I did not want my name on a Star Trek map. If there was nothing official, there was nothing in canon, and we're talking about 80 hours plus a movie. If there was nothing from canon to put on that, then leave it blank for now. And yeah, I know we were in a slow motion mode there, just a movie every 2 or 3 years. But that's what I thought. And so if you want to call me a diehard purist, if you want to call me a canonista in the worst way, that's where my instinct was. Because to me, these projects were about recording what was said on screen, done on screen. And we had no place in that. Now, that was young me, being a stalwart 100%er. And then came the movies. And then came Next Generation, best of all, and came third season. And Mike invented the quadrant system and finally started to corral where everything was. And yes, using real science, the way these had been a startup for. And then Jeff took over that mantle by the time of Enterprise and hyper detailed it. And ooh, it was so cool to have the Maps book come out and have that hyper detail and that overlap, that marriage of real science astronomy and as much real science astronomy as Star Trek had danced with, making it all fit. Sometimes that being a tight squeeze, sometimes having to come up with some retcon ideas to smooth it over. But, you know, now we've got the thing that Picard and Discovery and the animateds and presumably Strange New Worlds are all going to use as a Bible, and it's awesome to be a part of that. So those are stars, though. That's the star path. And you know what? If you get a hold of an Okudagram from second or third season, Next Generation, yeah, there'll be Sulagowski's star and you know, Mises World, and go down the list of crew people, creatives and crew people who are on there. And yes, Memory Alpha does have the Berman and the Pillar and the Justman all listed as Type 6 shuttles. What we need to do is very quickly have stalwart historical figures named in the appropriate time area that those could be namesakes for. But to me, when you say there's the USS Nog and over there is an Eisenberg class, it's two different things. You say, oh, they're honoring Nog as the first Ferengian Starfleet. And then you go, oh, it's for Aaron. Well, that's cool, but okay. You're madly already trying to figure out who in Star Trek canon the Eisenberg ship and class were named for. Unless for some reason, by the 32nd, 33rd century, there were a group of actors from the late 20th century who were all worthy of suddenly being named for real Starfleet ship names. That's what it comes down to. Unless, yeah, at least in Discovery's season 3, season 4 case, you've got 800 years of history that's going to be filled in. And you can come up with something by then. You can do that in the 24th century for the Berman and the Pillar and the Justman too, although they're shuttlecraft, not full ships, but still the idea. And maybe that's just more fun. And maybe you're saying, oh my God, Larry, give it up. Shut up about this. But I'm sorry. It's where my head goes. If this is my hill and my battle that I'm going to die on after so many perished for Klingons, maybe that's my thing. And I'm not going to die on this hill. I know when to withdraw and retreat, because as so often happens, they put it up on the screen and we love most of it, but there's always that one thing you go, okay, we'll fix it. Okay, we'll go back and we'll smooth that one over. Oh, Kronos in 4 days? Okay. Oh, your sensor scan at the Battle of the Binary Stars gives you a star chart of the Little Dipper? Like you're standing on Earth, not out on the frontier of next to Gamma Hydra. And oh, wait, you're not really near Gamma Hydra because the producers wanted you down here, not up here on the other end of the neutral zone. because everybody is in love with the memory of that and neutral zone, and no one wants to remember that there was a Romulan neutral zone and the Klingon neutral zone got invented. Thank you, Kobayashi Maru, Star Trek 2. We had it fixed until everybody started coming up with a Klingon neutral zone. Oh, if the Organians had access to a copyright court, they'd be hot there. Sorry for the rant. Sorry for the rant. You're seeing Dr. Trek in his true colors. So yes, I know. Now the challenge is just to come up with somebody named Eisenberg who was a big wheel, who was worthy of having a ship name. There was a Captain Eisenberg in the pre-burn. There was a very famous Captain Eisenberg, I'm sure. Anyway, I loved all the accolades that a lot of our younger fans were shown and pointed out to about Doug Trumbull. Absolutely. Do we have to stampede and have a ship name for him? I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry, all of my beloved friends working in art and visual effects. Can we find some other way to honor Doug besides a ship? If not, I'm hoping whoever's going to write that in, whoever writes that in, has the back headcanon, and they share it with us, so it's not headcanon, for who this Trumbull is that we're naming a Starfleet ship of the. Actually, if it's for Picard, it'll be early 25th century, late 24th century. I don't know. I'm probably off on such an anal rant here that most of you, I'm guessing 100% of you are going, oh, Larry, get over yourself. I'm sorry. That's where I come from. And you know what? Coming up with a reason, or even naming a character after Aaron, after Eisenberg, after Doug Trumbull, having a character named that's a namesake, or having a region. I mean, the runabouts were named for rivers, not people. So, that namesake could be attached to a lot of things. There could be a Trumbull colony that's known as a sanctuary for biodiversity. It could be a space arboretum named the Trumbull Arboretum, and that's what the ship is named for. That would be incredible. Of course, there'd have to be a real life Trumbull, not Doug Trumbull, still, but the fun would be there. I could go for a 2 or 3 version system there. I'm all for that. I just want to know the path that we use to get there. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, maybe there was a Type 6 shuttlecraft batch. We're all named for incredible 20th century media producers. For some reason, the night that admiral got drunk and decreed that. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to pay some homage of my own to Doug Trumbull. Don't get me wrong. And I love Dave and all the gang. I am so excited for Picard coming down the pike. Oop, wait, that's another 2 months. And what they're going to be doing, and what between Terry sneaking out Instagram and between little shots of some of the details, some of the graphics, and some of the cool sets, and Dave Blass's hints. I can't wait to sit down with both of them and talk about this after the fact. You can have your week-to-week teasers and promo. That's fine. In a year or two, that will be nothing but trivia itself. We'll get to the long-lasting stuff, and the because suddenly I don't want to say it. It makes sense. It makes sense to be excited about it, or it's worth being excited about. It feels like you can be proactive in seeing what's happening here instead of reactive and going back to constantly fix things. So, and that's not a knock on anybody. It's just the way the world works. And first out of the gate sometimes are not the folks who wind up carrying it over the finish line. And we can see that with Next Gen and Voyager and DS9 and Enterprise. So in all the ways. So, okay, I am off the soapbox. Let me know if you haven't already. Let me know what you think. Obviously, in the chat, we'll be getting to it. I'll get to it live. Twitchers, hang on. But I did want to let you know what's happening this month for our third Tuesdays live special. Here's what's happening. I don't know about you. We're still doing this dance with COVID and the pandemic, but we're also watching our events come around for the second and maybe even third cycle. I am excited. I think it's safe to say that we'll work it out one-to-one on your comfort zone, but I think it's time to open up the Trekland Treks again. Do you remember this? I had just launched this boom before the pandemic. Yes. Now, not to be confused with the big Geek Nation Tours tour that I do for Terrace Cassidy when we do 5 or 6 day tours. There's news on that front coming as well. But if you're just going to be in LA on your own or with a group, either for vacation or your business or whatever, if you've got a day to spare, you want to come and have your own LAOA mission. The sets are great to go visit, go up and see at Star Trek Tours. But what about all the other sets that weren't on a soundstage? And for most of Star Trek's history, that was around greater LA or maybe San Francisco. So if it wasn't in Discovery and it wasn't in Strange New Worlds upcoming, but it was Picard or any of the prior Star Treks, we can go there. I can work with you to work out a day tour. Maybe you want to do 2 days of touring. That's coming up. We're going to reauthorize. We're going to reopen the door to our Trekland Treks. There, I'm just using a postcard. Here's the thing. Your 24-hour third Tuesday special, and we don't have to do these. We should plan it for this year at least. 150 off, nearly a third off for your day trip. That's like 6 hours of touring. It's lunch. It's me personally leading you, and you have takeaways, souvenirs, and information. Best of all, it's all been planned by you with my guidance. So we have a great day. 1, 2, 3 people. If you've actually got a group, we'll get a minivan. But that's the scoop. But to kick it off, to reopen it, and I'm doing this with you guys, with everybody live right now, ahead of the main thing. We're going to reopen the Treks. By May, I'm thinking by May and June, people's comfort level will be back. Well, we'll be out because we'll be out in open air, but we'll be indoors as well, depending on what you pick. So we want to be maybe even maskless by then. Let's hope. Let's hope. So that's your third Tuesday special, gang. By midnight tomorrow night, your time, let me know. Get in touch with me. Ping in where you're watching me right now. Get into the comments or write me at larry@larrynimachek.com email and say, yes, I want to claim this month's third Tuesday, I said, special for this month and get that $150 off. All right. A Trekland Treks, and we will plan it. I would say probably no earlier than May. We'll see what's going, but May is to get you in for the summer. All right. All right. Other than that, gang, yes, it is exciting. It is exciting to be here. You know, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing about the whole name a ship after Doug Trumbull, but that's my reaction. That's my action. Who is this Trumbull, famous person? It's obviously not that person who merely worked in 20th century entertainment circles. Who was the value to the Federation historically and Starfleet that you're naming this ship after? I know. Well, I know one person I want to honor and pay homage to. All of our TTLers here in Patreon, our TTL clubs. So yes, my thanks to Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Keith Rumbach, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, and Blaze K. And our live wires, Rusty Harrell, Halberd Gunn Johnson, Jalen Bullock, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, and Casey Shafsky. If you're wondering what I'm talking about here, they're all folks who are helping me do our live stream, expand our live stream, remind me to stay on Chrome now. Thank you, Restream. For $5 and $10 a month, a shout out and access to our early guest interviews. I know. We'll get there. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Simple. You might see somebody else. You might see another creator by subscription or by project that you want to support too. It's all good. It's all good. And hey, if you have not heard the news yet, the Trek Files is back. It's our 8th season. We opened last week with David Livingston. This week, someone you may not have heard from or heard, but he's in a great field that's growing. We touched on this with my live panel for at home San Diego Comic-Con at home panel this year, but space law, real life space law today. And space lawyer Space Lawyer Maclay is Mackley is my guest to look at a speech Gene gave about meta law, future law in the 70s. Some interesting ideas. Yeah. Mackley Carroll's an interesting guy, and you want to check that out. It's up today on the Trek Files, podcast.roddenberry.com, or just go to Facebook. Facebook is where the documents are. So the only podcast with homework. And of course, hang around for Saturday where you're watching me right now. We'll be back on these Trekland channels for Life Support Live. Dr. Trek and Dr. Ali, one of us is a real doctor, boldly going through uncertain times. Some life tips, some Star Trek geek out on a theme of the week. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 UK time, 7 Central Europe. And yes, we're global. We try to be global. If you noticed in the chat, we've got folks from all over the world. Everything I do and build, I try to make it global, at least in some aspect. We have a roundtable that's Europe-based for their prime time in Portal 47. Our Ask Dr. Trek roundtable goes twice a month for both ends. And of course, if it's European prime time, that means it's midday in the States. And that midday European roundtable is where I got the idea for today's topic again. So there you go. Kind of a light week on news. Discovery is bopping along, but hey, a little bit more news we'll take after the break when it comes to the parrots I want to share with you. So maybe we're leaving you for now. If you're watching on YouTube later, then I just want to say, stay healthy. Do all the things, please. Stay woke. Check your sources and check what you're hearing. It might be true and you've just never heard it before, or it might be BS. Most of all, trek well, everybody. All right. All righty then. Boom. Let's jump into the parrots. Interesting stuff. And let's do the normal parrots first, okay? The normal parrots. Oh, I'm going to have to. Oh, we've got some. Oh, maybe some. Okay, maybe some breaking news that I did not have. Now I almost want to cut this and put this forward. As we leave the air this week on our YouTube after thing, apparently Paramount Plus has announced they're expanding to the UK, South Korea, and the Caribbean by the end of second quarter, early summer. So by the end of June. And they will be in Italy, Germany, France, and Switzerland, and Austria by the end of 2022. So the current cycle of new shows rolling out will not be Paramount Plus available to our friends in Central Europe until the new year. But at least there is a firm lot. Yeah. There we go. Alrighty then. And now here's some things I want you to remember. Okay, there's the cut. Now we're going to look at the parrots on the face of it all. Here's the thing. The Parrot Analytics is a way one company came up with as a way to get a metric, a handle on all the digital original shows. This has been, what is it going to be now? 3, 4, we're coming up on 8, 9, I'm losing track. 3, 4 years before Discovery's premiere, which is when we found them out. Thank you again, John X. They're trying to come up with a way to look at the internet to get a popularity scale, which they call average demand expression, just the chatter online from critics, from fans, from the studios themselves. Since things like Nielsen's are not only not available, but they don't make any sense when you're not having to set ad rates for commercials. So it's not publicly known. We've been doing this since Discovery's start. And there are quibbles you can have with parrots. There are competing companies trying to start up. The Nielsen's are trying to get into this, but they're not representing all the stations yet. They're still looking for a variable. And a lot of these studios don't like quoting the Nielsen's. This week, the way Parrot does it, they go week to week. I'm looking at the American ratings. You can too at parrotanalytics.com on their Insights tab. You can also find many of the dozens of countries if you dig. Look at the URL code and you can dig and find it. But in the US, in the week ending February 11th, Mandalorian is back on top of the huge episodes they've been having there, with Boba Fett right behind it. So 48.8 and 44.7 times more popular than an average show that they define, which is like the middle 2/3. They have an exceptional, which is the top 4/10 of all series out. Outstanding, which is the next, is the top 2.5%, which that 4/10 is the first end of. And then good, and then average. All these top 10, in fact, I'm sure the top 20 or 30 are in the outstanding bracket. You got Mandalorian, Boba Fett, then The Witcher, Cobra Kai, Star Wars, Clone Wars, Pam and Tommy, Stranger Things, Peacemaker, Titans, and Ozark. Of the digital originals, Ozark ends up at 29.5 of the digitals only in the top 10. Hang on to that, because the overalls, and I don't mean Oshkosh Bagosh, I mean the overalls, digital and terrestrial or satellite. SpongeBob is in number one, where it usually is, 63.8 times more popular than an average show. Then Attack on Titan, which has been booming. South Park, Euphoria, Mandalorian, there you go, number one digital. Saturday Night Live, Book of Boba Fett, Game of Thrones, Simpsons, and My Hero Academia. Of the overalls, My Hero is at 37.3 times more popular than an average show. So 37, 29. Oh, Larry, where does that leave our Trek shows? Well, Discovery is sitting at 17.1 right now. That's it's still an outstanding. It's still in the upper 2.5% of all the shows that are tracked that Parrot does in the U.S. In the U.S., it's up a little bit. It's basically the same, but the trend line over 60 days is up just a little bit. Now that's the 30 days. That's not the week. So that's a little higher than last week. That's that 17.1, as opposed to all the top 10 I just read, is not week to week, we should say. That's the last 30 days average. But over the last 60 days, the trend line has started to come up just a little bit, and it's more popular than 99.2% of all other drama shows. Now, we just watched Prodigy end. Prodigy is really interesting. It's sitting at 18.3%. So it's already a point higher over the last 30 days average than Discovery is, even with Discovery having the hoopla of coming back for its resumption of the final end of the fourth season, the back end. Prodigy had the hoopla over 30 days of having its finale of its front end of a first season, the last 10 shows. Yeah. Prodigy is sitting at a 36.7% change in demand, and its curve is staying high and staying flat, but on a gradual curve. I get the idea that Prodigy is really on a eternal discovery, that more and more and more people are finding it and liking it. Now, there's only 10 episodes out, but I have the feeling that the word of mouth is really working on Prodigy. Meanwhile, Picard's coming up, and there's all the buzz, like we were buzzing today. Picard is already sitting at 15.7. It's not even up. So it's only a couple of points behind Discovery. And its trend line had been up and then down over the 60 days. And it's back. It's at a plus 28%. So all the Trek shows are doing fine. They're probably in that top 10. They're probably in the second 10, like 10 to 20, or at least in the lower 30s. Now, what's been interesting, though, is a press release today, and I've been watching this. This is a Parrot Analytics talking. This is not from the studio, but looking at the new series from all the digital streamers. What's their takeaways here are that Viacom, CBS, okay, and they're combining Showtime and Paramount Plus. However, but Yellow Jackets is on Showtime and it's done really well, so that's bopped them up. And Dexter New Blood is apparently Showtime also. And those were the 5th and 13th most popular in-demand shows in the fourth quarter across all the platforms. But Star Trek Prodigy in fourth quarter last year, and remember, it just had barely started. It premiered and then had a cutoff. Only 5 shows. But that made it the 14th most in-demand new series across all streaming platforms. It was number 4 for the whole quarter, of which it only occupied it. Then once we got to the new quarter and more episodes were out, all of Paramount Plus is the number 2 by platform. So yeah, Disney isn't up there with 20.1% in corporate demand share, but Viacom CBS is second with 13.4 and ahead of Warner Media and NBC Universal for now. What specifically is interesting is that of all these platforms with a franchise attached, Paramount Plus would be nothing without Star Trek. We kind of know that. But here's some numbers. This is Paranalytics numbers for this quarter, I believe, for that fourth quarter. Star Trek Originals on Paramount Plus amounted to 36.6% of the demand for everything on Paramount Plus. Oh, in the whole year, in 2021. In the whole year of 2021, Star Trek demand on Paramount Plus was 36.6%. Comparing this, Marvel shows were 38.6% of all the Disney Plus Originals demand, and Star Wars was 30.1% of all the Disney Plus Originals demand. So it's almost, Star Trek is almost at the same level to Paramount Plus as Marvel is to Disney Plus. And it is ahead of what Star Wars is to Disney Plus in 2021. Do you follow me? I mean, it's not the weak sister here. Now there was some headlines since that I don't have handy, but Prodigy improved on that rating in January and February. Prodigy got up to as high as, I believe, the number 4 of the new series on streaming. Prodigy was up to like the 4th most popular, according to Paranalytics, week to week. There was one week where Prodigy was either up to 4 or 5th most popular of the new series, which is saying a lot. And I believe, as Trek fans, we're sitting here going, yeah, boy, we sure enjoyed Prodigy more than we thought. I think it's the ticking time bomb of goodness, because you get implanted with kids and their parents. If you can get on a SpongeBob level, right, all up and down. Anyway, so some interesting tidbits are coming out of the Parrots, which again are not the end-all be-all. They're not hard corporate numbers, but nobody is backing off. Have we finally? I know the joke category, the meme ridiculing. I mean, I hate to lose it as a category of humor online, of sarcasm, but have we finally put an end to the whole cancel all Star Trek and fire Alex meme? I mean, I don't want to. I'm too sentimental about it. It's too much fun to kick at them. But I mean, you keep getting headlines like this, and you keep getting actual earnings reports, and you keep getting all of that, and it's hard to knock it down. But there you go. And this news about Paramount Plus finally putting out some hard dates: the UK, South Korea, and the Caribbean by July 1st. Most of our key European markets there, and folks that we've got here: Italy, Germany, France, Switzerland, and Austria by the end of 2022. So maybe you heard it here first. And thanks, John Connor, for alerting me to that headline popping up while we've been on the air. All righty, everybody. Here's where we do the wonderfully archaic thing of me scrolling back to the beginning of the chat and seeing what's up with everybody. So if you are new, make sure and pipe up. You can lurk, it's fine. But if you're new, sound off and let us know where you're coming from. But good to see everybody. Good to see everybody, and especially our, hopefully we're on a clear signal today. Appreciate everybody's support, even when Restream and Firefox are not getting along. Hey, Garrett. Hey, man. How are you, sir? Getting ready, getting excited for Sci-Fi-Con again. Finally. I hope everything goes well. Have me back anytime, Garrett. Hopefully we got more stuff building here. Um, hey, Steven. Still waiting for him to go name a starship the USS Texas. Well, that makes more sense. You know what I forgot to say, though? I think we've had a USS Shran, and I think there's been at least one Klingon named starship, even the 24th or now. But why don't we name famous Andorians and Tellarites? And we've had a couple of Vulcan names. Yes. We've had a T'Pau and a Surak, I think. Although the Surak may only have been, no, we've had a Surak, I think was butchered in the Dominion War, I think. But rather than naming 20th century entertainment or 21st century entertainment figures, can we please start fleshing out some Federation heroes, and especially some non-human ones? Oh, I wish I'd had that. I wish that was meant to be my closer. That is my closer. All right. That's what I'd love to see. But yeah, Texas, the Tejas makes sense. I'm sure it would be in the same class as the USS Oklahoma. Famous college football teams. That's the whole class of the Starship. It's not about the states at all. I'm not about not giving them tributes. Heavens to Murgatroyd. No, that's fine. Absolutely. Did I say Huey, Louie, and Dewey, Melanie? Yeah. Absolutely. Silent Running is pretty outdated, and our ecological hero murders 3 people. I think, it's Bruce Dern. So he's not going to be the most stable of people. Could have been written a bit differently. Oh, John X, are you gonna pull a revisionist looking? Actually, I need to go watch it. I don't think I saw it maybe 2 or 3 years after that time I saw it at my first convention in a film room. That's something I need to do. I hear that one of the domes has been of the ship, the biodomes, has been preserved at the Mopop, or the Sci-Fi Museum in Seattle. What are we saying here, JR? How do release dates work? Do they guesstimate how long production will take and distribution limited? Yeah. Well, you're talking about movies here or TV? Politics and physical parameters. And oh no, our star was just Me Too'd. There's all kinds of things that can affect a release date, or if ever. But yeah, or pandemics. They kind of look at it and scale it to the size. Now, in the old days, nobody predicted that the Robert April decision was going to blow up. Nobody predicted that there would be such exhaustion around the shooting. And actually, the shooting delay, the battle of the script pages, that Center Seat has brought to bear. If you didn't know the story before, here's one more iteration of bringing it in your face. But it was the Robert April debacle that really had everybody panting. That really had everybody running hard and heavy. Because if visual effects, they'd had scripts to plan for. If visual effects had been happening all along, and if the memory wall sequence live action hadn't been a joke, that they had to totally scrap the whole idea and rework the spacewalk sequence. If visual effects hadn't been let down since square one, that mad dash to get done by December 7th wouldn't have been an issue. It wasn't about the live filming. That was all handleable. Limited release is all about they think word of mouth will help out eventually. Like, why go into markets where you don't think you're going to do well? Maybe the stars aren't known. Maybe you go to LA and New York and urban places where people are just moviegoers, and you hopefully let the word of mouth catch fire. That's why Comic-Cons got big. It's not about old guys looking at comics in bags and dusty boxes. It's about getting the film properties out and getting a big bang, getting hardcore fans to drive the word so that then the general population picks up and goes to see. So, or film festivals, right? That's what that's all about. You want to light the match to let the fuse burn brighter and brighter, rather than throwing all of your advertising at it's kind of like it's almost like a military attack. Are you going to have a wide front like Hitler tried to do in Russia, or are you going to have some, you're going to have a landing and then try to fan out once you make your landing with the audience. But that's why they would only go to certain markets at the beginning and then let that word of mouth catch fire and let the media carry the water instead of having to pay for the advertising totally at the front. Hey, Narda, you are forgiven, Narda. Glad you're here. Yeah. Well, now, Johannes, the Ninnebeck A was not my idea. By the way, the pillar and the Berman, there was no shuttlecraft pillar or biller. The pillar and the Berman were done by the model maker. And didn't tell anybody till he delivered them because he thought, oh, it's going to be okay. And they're going to be so tiny, no one's going to care. And the Justman was not meant to be on camera, but it's immortalized forever because of the photo that they took with Bob. And now that's out and now we have it. So some, and the ocudograms were meant to be tiny and not read at all by camera. Even with HD, a lot of the ocudograms can't be read unless you've got a photo of the image. And now they've all been in auctions or people like, oh, I don't know, some people had access to them eventually and made scans and got the information out there. It's a difference between that and the Ninnebeck. I didn't know it was named for me until Jerry told me. Some fan pointed it out, and then I finally asked Jerry. I met her in 93, and 5 years went by before I knew that was named for me. So that's okay. And where there's that one, there's dozens more. So it's all good. It's all good. Kivas Fajo, that's fine. It's been alienated. That's fine. Yeah, this is true, John. He was a technical genius. He worked on several dead ends and missed the CGI boat. But, in the 90s and the aughts, well, CGI was coming along. The 70s and the 80s, and then the 90s, they just kept perfecting. He had some of his technologies he was pushing. And there are still people to this day that will, with analog camera and film stock being pushed, there are some qualities, the purists, and of course the job was to make purists out of the realm of the ivory tower and make it mainstream. CGI looked so easy, but CGI was so tempting, and you had some of the insane car wrecks and crashes and the big explosions and some of the stretching bodies, some of the insane thing that insults your intelligence, that finally they started to pull. Just because you could do it, does that mean you should? And there's become kind of a pushback about doing a lot of stunts and explosions and miniatures, all that, everything up and down the board, going back to do it analog. And some of the technology he worked on the last 10, 20 years of his life was about pushing analog technologies. The USS Roddenberry. Plans for the USS Nemechek are being scrapped. Well, if you knew of some plans, Nathaniel, I would love to hear about it. But you know what? I'm totally open to somebody being something major. Hopefully they're not going to name ships and things after planets after traitors and scalawags. But hey, Boat Trek, are you new with us today? What about the USS Larry? Oh yeah. And then whenever it comes into space dock, everyone stands on the display window and says, "Hello, Larry." Yes, hello, Larry. Christoph. Now, Jeffrey's tubes. No, I am not arguing against Jeffrey's tubes because they were retconned. For one thing, Matt Jeffries did not ask for this. The original Jeffries tube, singular, was the circuit well that usually Scotty would get in and cuss, as in Doomsday Machine. But the tube, the set, they just called it the Jeffries tube because it was. And then Next Generation brought that idea forward when they built Jeffries tubes as a set to have, circuitry bay access. And that was an in-joke. And then it crept into the action lines and the script. And at some point, it crept into dialogue. We can look that up. We can find the first instance of Jeffrey's tube in dialogue. And it was like, okay. Had Met passed away by then? I don't think so. I think he still had a couple years left. Now but at that time, he wasn't even working on the show, and there was kind of a thing about whenever they pulled off a panel to look inside, well, that became Jim Meese's, who was the set decorator. If it was tinkering and adding to a set that an actor would play with, and it wasn't props, it was part of the set, that, the prop would be the tool that Geordi or Data would use, but the set piece would be under the purview of the set decorator. And all through most of the modern shows, Laura Richards was the set decorator on DS9's last 6 years. Mickey Daniels was the first. But Jimmy Meese, aside from a year in the middle of Voyager that he took off and then he came back, it was Jimmy Meese. John Dwyer, the late great John Dwyer, had first season Next Gen. And then after that, it was Jim Meese till the end of Enterprise, with a couple of exceptions there, and not DS9. But whenever they were in a production meeting and the script would say he opens a panel and, Jimmy, okay, now how much of this are we going to see? Because here's budget. It was kind of like, he was kind of like a mini version of Bob Justman talking about budget. How much are we going to have to see? Or the phaser, every time somebody shot a phaser and you had to animate the beam, that was $1,000. So can we shoot some of these? Here's my frame. Instead of somebody shooting their phaser like this, if you shot your phaser like this, you save $1,000 right there. See? So after a while, there was a move to call if you read Rick's intro to the tech manual, the original TNG tech manual, there was a move to call those Meese panels. Original series, the McCoy's medical scanner, some people called it a Feinberger, although any little hand tool, any little hand prop got called a Feinberger because Irving Feinberger was the prop master. And he was always, getting those things back, especially if it was a hero, the phasers and communicators. If it was a hero that worked, oh my God, it was life and death. Don't play with that. Don't play with the props. Don't play with the working props, especially. And you can go back and read Bijo's Concordance, where sometimes a med scanner was called a Feinberger. Even D would say, so you take the Feinberger and then you blah, blah, blah. So there'd been but did they punch through? Did they get used in dialogue, rightly or wrongly? But Matt Jeffries, we had a Captain or an Admiral Jeffries in dialogue mentioned in Enterprise. So it's okay. It's okay, Christoph. There was a Stephen Hawking. But Stephen Hawking is namesake worthy. Unless somehow in the next 300 or 400 years, they figure out that everything he pioneered was bunk. We had the virtual wool pulled over our eyes. No, Hawking was fun. There was a shuttle Hawking. Yes, absolutely. There was a USS Biko. Absolutely. Blasphemy. Okay, Zahir, you were in on the Jeffries tube things. Dan, you beat me to it ish. I beat myself, but yes, there were the Feinbergers in the scripts, just like Meese panels. Absolutely. And Jeffries tube is where this resided at the beginning, but no one ever said Feinbergers. In fact, at one point, somebody said it was a Feinberger oscillating Framazam. Yeah. Absolutely, Keith. The Grissom for Gus Grissom. Roger Chaffee has a T10 shuttle named for him in DS9, but you've never seen one for Ed White. Well, okay, see? We've got all this room. Naming ships, though, is a little bit like music choices. Can we please have something not only from another period besides American classical or American rock and roll? Can we please have something from another time century? And maybe something from another planet? And I know it'll have no cultural retrospect to us. There have been once or twice we heard alien music. Even Klingon opera, if it's opera sung in oratorically in Klingon language or something. Aktu and Melota. Oh. Christoph, how about a show? Guys, I am not averse to the ego and the vanity and the honor of having something. I mean, when I finally found out about the Nineveh, it was like, Okay, but next time, can it be something that doesn't kill people? That would be cool. Steve, Mr. Show Us Your Star, one of the culprits originally. Yeah. Guys, this is all fine. The USS Matu. Okay, Melanie, there you go. Okay, I didn't mean to send us all off on what would be okay. And Nemechek Institute of Journalism and Fandom. Well, that's quite a mix there. A shuttle for Schrodinger. Wasn't that like a children's book? A shuttle for Schrodinger. I know you had nothing to do with the maps that were basically stolen from you. Don't you remember? I remember you working those up first. Yeah, you probably did. Yes, that was the big news when I got my letters from Jeff in New York. Yeah, that it was publishing. That was big news in I won't talk about the years now, but yes. First 2 years of college, last 2 years of college, not so much. Steve, you have good memory. Steve was there, folks. Moot me no moot, girl. Is that like the Pennington Institute? Somebody, we need a Star Trek Google universe map. Well, I've heard from, I need to nail this down. Our graphics folk who are working on the current shows, there's a 3D map prepared that is the gist of some of the graphics you've been seeing on Discovery. There you go. Oh, really? If you recall correctly, Google did want to name its voice assistant Majel. Yes, and it went out. It went away. Yes, there was a shuttle pod on Azuka. Absolutely. Yeah, well, the real comedian Data's trying to learn from on the holodeck is not a comedian. It's crew people. Yes. Okay, well, we covered Jeffrey's tube. There are several shuttlecraft with your middle name. Okay, John, you're going to share? Well, I got to that. I think I'm lucking here. Yes. Okay, Dan, you wonder if the Yorktown was accidental, or was it a knowing reference to the first Hero Church? Well, part of this is the first Hero Starship, the original Yorktown before it changed to Enterprise, was the fact they were all aircraft carriers in World War II. I mean, the Yorktown was like a sister to the Enterprise and was just, gloriously had a similar history. What is this? Ooh, it's located at J. Kelly Burke University, but emphasized more Will Rogers folksiness. Nathaniel, you're getting scary on me here. Nitpicking Brian would say Admiral Forrest. Oh, yeah, that's fine. You want to name Admiral Forrest and Admiral and Commodore Williams and Admiral Leonard, right? Yeah, they were all named for Bill and Dee and Leonard. Admiral Forrest. And what was fun was telling Vaughn Williams that his name was named for DeForest Kelley. He was like, "You're kidding? How do you know this?" I'm like, "Look at the names in the script and figure it out." And then they did admit it. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, now, the dedication plaques. Now you've opened up a whole different can of gawk here. Of course, all the in-joke names are on there, and everybody's retconned, and they've been on Ukudagram's shown. That's fine too. Now you've named characters after people, and that's fine. And Memory Alpha treats it that way. They'll have, Janet has an entry as who the namesake was, but there's at least 2 or 3 crewman, lieutenant, whatever Janets in early years of Voyager Okudagrams when they got daring enough to make them big enough that they can be HD read. John X, you just assumed. Well, when the Klingon neutral zone, part of this was never said, but we called it, Franz Joseph had it right. He called it the Organian Treaty Zone. So if by treaty, I mean, why call it a neutral zone again when that could be the Romulans thing and we can call it differently over here? I mean, that's partly it's me being affected by Franz Joseph Schnellbelt and the old technical manual, but part of it made total sense. It's like, why duplicate the name? If you say the neutral zone, you're talking Romulans and you don't have to specify. And then the Organian Treaty Zone is the Klingon side. But that's what all of us in the 70s and 80s did. And then when Wrath of Khan came out, I remember going, okay, how can we fix this? How can we fix this? It's just a rogue Klingon. That's what it was. And for years, it was just a rogue Klingon, which made it even weirder. Why was a rogue Klingon messing around in the Romulan neutral zone? That was part of the about it. And we were fine with that. And then they had to come along and make it, anyway, we had it just fine until some folks came along and only read surface and didn't go below the surface. And apparently nobody was reading notes on whatever script that was the first time. Trumbull's World. Dan, I think you're quoting me. Was there a Trumbull's World already on an Akutogram? I could totally see that. Stephen, no, don't, please. This is like, that's like Gene hiring somebody to run the mail campaign. Oh, wait, he did. Never burst a blood vessel about it. I'll take your advice. Make Trumbull a captain in Strange New Worlds, then he can have a yes. I mean, Tobias, it's not that I'm against it. I'm just against it being nilly-willy without anybody thinking what should happen. I mean, I'm still waiting on knowing who the famous Eisenberg was. I mean, obviously we need an Eisenberg compensator. But yeah, this is I've got no trouble with that at all. It's even a great, there was a famous artist, Revolutionary War artist named Trumbull. He might even been related. I haven't looked that up. What are we saying here, Nathaniel? My story about trying to record commentary of Nick Meyer. Do I remember any discussion about the sunrise between Undiscovered Country and Nemesis? I think I brought some of them up. I think I tried to bring them up, and I think Nick was just so depressed about, if I open my mouth, it's going to be negative. And believe me, I was looking for those rays of sunshine to try to, hang something on. And it just wasn't working. It was just very, yeah. Absolutely, Glenn. Absolutely. The trouble with troubles. I'm totally aware with you. Oh, Steve. Well, you're hanging with us today. The world of any franchise should stay within the franchise. Commemorating writers, actors, producers should be live. The reference inside the camera. Otherwise, you break the fourth wall. And even Dave Shallhorn. We are going old school and in-house, kids, today. Let me see if I can finish this up. Even Dave Shallhorn, I believe, would agree that it needs to remain standing. Yes, Steve. I think even Dave would want the fourth wall up, unless of course it's the Jack Benny show, and there's a poof in the living room. Hey, Steve Price. Hello. I know you've been with us before, but glad to see you again. The Trumbull Design Institute. That's right. There's a USS Probert. And if it's the one I'm thinking about, it was the one that was in the opening mumbled, the Starfleet chatter, the subspace chatter that you hear at the beginning of motion picture. No, what are you saying, Narda? Put on my Dr. McCoy smock and heal thyself. Your rants on keeping train. Oh, you know what? I'm not trying to be a ranter. I'm saying use Eisenberg, use Trumbull, but just give us the reason why, okay? Or I guess if you're going to leave it for the next generation of writers to do, that's okay. That's just going to be another brick in our retcon load that we're carrying for years. Like bumpy-headed Klingons. That was a lot of bricks to carry for a lot of years. And for the part of the fandom that says, "Who cares?" I'm just going to show you the way I adhere. This is how much I adhere to IDIC. I am perfectly happy to accept your differences in our fandom, in our universe, because I don't believe in you either. Now, Melanie, you're really crossing the streams here between Tuesdays Live and Live Support Live. We've got all kinds of folks in the. I'm sorry, did I say? Oh, at Melanie, it's Zahir. Yes, sorry, Zahir. You guys are overlapping. If anything were named Matu, it'd be some sort of psychological deficiency caused by a lack of plexing. Yep, that even almost sounds Betazoid. It could be a Betazoid name. Zahir, I use that phrase a lot. That was totally an accident, but hey, I'll take it. I'll take it and run with it. Yes, Cairo. And I know you've been standing in line for a long time waiting for all this damnness to get over with. So you want to set one up around Vegas time? Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it, Cairo. They named the Enterprise after the car rental. Yes, all the great service that the car rental industry did for future flying cars. Do we get Jetson flying cars? Is it flying rent-a-car? The USS Hertz, the USS Avis. Yeah. Yeah. The USS Dollar? Okay. Steve, you're hoping to go on the cruise again next year. Since it's leaving from LA, we might be able to do some Trekland touring. That would be fabulous. In fact, that's a little thing that's percolating inside my head. I might even do an LA away tour, which would be like a planned one for a lot of people who are in town for that. I'd want to keep the door open for people to take, to arrange their own. But if I plan one that can take 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 people, just as a day tour or 2 days, there is that. There is that. Now this is interesting. An episode of Commentary Trek Stars, Trek FM, where it was argued Mike and blank on his host name. Benny Russell was both a creator of DS9 while being within it. Why not both have an Eisenberg and a Nog? Maybe there is a USS New York Paperboy as well. We obviously have some sorry gang. I hate declining raw numbers because then you're on their list, but they can call me back. A USS New York Paperboy as well. Oh boy, Nathaniel, I'm missing the boat here. I am missing the boat. Oh, you're talking about the alternate universe Aaron's character in Far Beyond? Both a creator DS9 while being within it. Well, there was one of the novelizations of the animated series that Alan Dean Foster did. I just remember it blew my little brain away. It opens up with Spock and Kirk or some of the characters in a Starfleet museum, and they're looking at fictional blueprints from 1973 by a man named Franz Joseph. And basically the characters looking at the display thinking, wow, who would have thought that this draftsman put together this fictional starship, and that's the model that we would today decide we might as well use because it's so brilliant. Now that was going meta to a deep level, but it sure blew my little brain. That's kind of what you're talking about here, only not quite as graphical. That future 24th century is going to remember a 20th century entertainment program. Whose creator was Benny Russell after the civil rights movement enabled this 50s black sci-fi writer to live long enough and have the world evolve enough that he could pitch an entertainment program in Prime Universe's boy. That's dodgier than trying to make the eugenics wars fit in the 1990s that we all lived through. That'll twist your pretzel. Okay. Oh, now we're gonna have a fourth wall debate. Woohoo! Okay. But there you go. We've got the positions staked out. I'm all for commemorating whatever we want to commemorate. I just want there to be an in-universe thing made up for it. And I don't want it to get out of control. I don't want to have 87 characters running around, all named for a producer, a writer, an actor, because it will be endless. And after a while, there'll be no room left to squeeze in original ideas for names. So that's all I'm saying. So, if we're going to keep it to a Mount Rushmore level, okay. I'm sorry about the tech, whatever's not working on the notifications. I don't know. Hey, Narda, what did you get? Oh, you got a bright yellow Trekland Treks t-shirt. Yeah, with the logo on it. Cool. Bright yellow. Okay. That wouldn't have been my choice, but hey, Idik. The USS Sagan. Can we even if we make up some Andorian scientists or some Tellarite scientists, can we do that? Can we have them dropped in the USS Glurg, and people go, "What's the USS Glurg?" And then somebody, Dave or Terry or somebody, pops up and says, Mike pops up and says, "Oh, Glurg was a famous Tellarite surgeon admiral. Don't you know? Don't you know your history?" Samuel T. Cogley will actually be on the Trek Files. Yes, we mentioned Samuel T. Cogley. Better him than that Klingon counselor that was prosecuting Worf. I don't know, Jared. I'm in Chrome. So if this is not coming to you well, then I throw up my hands. But I'm in Chrome today. Gonna guess Gene Kuhn never gets a ship name for him. Well, now see, there you're problematical. If you say the USS Kuhn, that might open a door to, sadly, that might open the door to an awful lot of, abuse in some quarters on the memifying side. And people would say, why don't you just name it the USS Raccoon? And so now we're naming ships after wildlife of Earth. Now, if they named it the USS Gene Kuhn, as is done with battleships today in the States, we have the USS John F. Kennedy and the USS Gerald R. Ford, then maybe the USS Gene Kuhn. And then you have a ship class that's named for obscure Korean War veterans of the Chosun Reservoir. I don't know if he was at the Battle of Chosun, but yes, absolutely. John is privately texting me that, of course, you can have more than one ship name. Yes, I'm thinking of the battleships, but yeah. And Star Trek has had it, the USS Tiananmen, or Tian on Men. It's misspelled in the Anglo section. Wow. I think I did light a fire today. I'm sure glad hopefully we're in good looking shape here. I'm forgetting who we're talking about. Did have a memorial station named after him on Mars in Enterprise. Absolutely. Well, he was a real world scientist and he was a public educator. Sure. Yes, Cairo, thank you. He's taken upon himself to tell Firefox, anyway, of these restream issues, because under the theory that it might be Firefox's problem, not Restream. But today, hopefully, we are here. Sorry, I know you guys wouldn't enjoy that. I'm just the reporter. I just deliver the news. Don't shoot the piano player. Hey, Dan. Oh, okay. If it's a good question, we'll see. Oh, which was first? Kirk's "Oh my" during his dying moments in Generations, or George Takei's? Well, since Kirk's "Oh my" in real life was 94, and that was written for him in 93, well, actually in 94. So then it becomes a case of, did George have his "Oh my"? Was that a thing before 94, and I want to say it was. I want to say the George, the George laugh. Oh, I used to do it better. I want to say George was oh-mying as a mockable caricature, gesticular, name, meme. I want to say it was before 94. But I don't think that was on Ron and Brannon's mind when they came up with that. If I ever get a chance, I will ask. We will ask. Soon Paramount Plus will be global. Yes, but not soon enough for all the globalists out there. Agreed. Yeah. But again, this is why I love having a global audience here on Trekland, for whatever we can get it for. Yep. It is compared to the age of the Earth and on the grand scheme. Oh, I missed the trail here. Trekland Live rocks. No, Jim, those are up at Vasquez. Live rocks are up there. But thank you, man. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. And yes, Prodigy is awesome. And very good so far. And now I saw somebody comparing Janeway to the fugitive. She's going to be on the hunt for the renegade kids in the Starship, not knowing the story yet. I know. Somebody's really getting. They've been so preoccupied with the merger and the streaming rollout that they hadn't had time to fire Alex and cancel Discovery lately. If you combine all the Star Trek content and not just the news shows, I would bet that was 75% of all demand for that service. Yes. Although I think they're tomorrow, Viacom CBS will be called Paramount Global. Okay, is this your prediction, Boat Trek? Who is Why Hello Elsie? We love you, Larry. Why, thank you. Why Hello Elsie? Is this your first time with us, or is this a new ID? The whole world of YouTube living is an interesting place. But thank you. And glad to have you with us. I see this coming here, Dan. You finally got an opportunity to introduce your very young niece. She's 6. My granddaughter is about to turn 6. To Star Trek Prodigy on Sunday. We only managed to find time to watch a few minutes up to when Dow rockets in the sky, but your niece loved it. That's what I'm hoping. Yay. Okay. Another satisfied customer. I know. Why am I the only one who sees this, Cairo? Although, to be fair, there's no ships named after famous. There's one little ship mentioned after a famous Andorian. Oh, what? We don't have any to name after? Then maybe we should come up with some more famous Andorians. I think there was a USS Cochrane. I think there was. If not during the Dominion War when they were cranking out ship names. Because you had two things. You had the writers sticking ship names in scripts, and then you had all the model makers coming up with model kits and throwing names on. You had the Kit Bash Navy for all the Dominion Wars. Hi, Susan. I have an eye on the Paramount announcements as we speak. They're at least a year ahead of their expansion schedule and would be 2 years ahead of by next year. Oh, talking about their numbers, their business numbers. They'll be in Asia and Africa by the end of next year. They have also teamed up with Canal Plus for some of Europe by the end of this year. Looks like it's getting pretty global to me. I know, it just can't come soon enough. They wanted that. I mean, Star Trek is leading the band for them, because if it said, well, we should have rolled out the network and then had the program. Well, the network is going light years faster. And yes, that's the Star Wars meaning. The network is coming along warp factors faster with Star Trek than without it. Nat, we're stronger with you than without you. Or the Cochrane class for the NXO. If they retcon the name, that would be some cool canon to get. Can we please have a class name? Do we please stop calling them the NX class? I love that idea, Nathaniel. Ferengi starships should be designated as Ferengi Commerce Authority so we could get an FCA Brunt. Yes. Or an FCA ROM and an FCA Zek and an FCA Ishka. What are you saying here? Going back to Silent Running, several shots of the Valley Forge and its sister ships were worked into the original Battlestar Galactica series as ag ships. That's true. That's true. Larry is don't bring that up. Don't bring that up. You all know that the mention of Larry in that episode of Prodigy was not about me. It was about the Benson sisters' father's name as an homage to him. That's when I thought, don't make me a murder planet. Now I've been a killer shuttle and a murder planet. What are we trying to say here? Yeah. So no, I have no ego to bruise on that. Yay, yay for Mr. Benson. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I know you've been with us before, but glad to see you back. But that's always bugged me. I mean, this is an old soapbox of mine. They already had the Capitol, both places of the Capitol. The executive and the judicial are both there. Where does the Federation Supreme Court? Can the Federation Supreme Court please be on Vulcan or on Andor or Teller Prime or someplace? Or Andoria, if you're new school. Yeah, I know when he died because it was in the time of the DVD bonus features, which had to be way past night. If I just stopped and thought, I thought it was, but I hate to pass along bad information on the fly when I'm not looking it up. If I'm not going to have time to look it up and I make everybody wait, then I will just talk around it and not commit, or at least do a caveat. So thank you. And you guys jump in and look at stuff anyway. Sometimes I want to trust my memory, but sometimes I don't, because the last thing I want to do is add to the confusion out there. And no, that is not a woke or a fake news era thing. That's been me since day one. I hated seeing people just fudge stuff. I'm the same way when I do tours at Will's. If I don't know it precisely on top of my head, I will say I will look that up for you if you want to know. And here's another one. Thank you, Brian.
According to Memory Alpha, Jeffrey's ships were first mentioned by name in Season 3 of TNG The Hunted.
Which is, yeah. Then, of course, Captain Jeffries, who designed the NX. See, that's fine. I mean, it's all fine. That all fell. The first time TNG had them on screen, I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. It would be funny if Hawking turns out to be a time traveler. Yes, yes. Hawking, that actor who played himself in TNG. That's the one. That's it. Yes, that's when the Shran was named, Dan. Yeah. USS Taplana Hoth. Thank you. Oh, some breaking news. The 2023 movie will reunite the Kelvin crew. Production set to start by end of the year. Well, I would hope so. So there you go. So apparently, Chris Pine has room to shoot his movie he's directing and then bop over and be in the Kelvin universe. I didn't answer your question about the Yorktown, Larry. What? Everybody bopping in with the breaking news. There you go. You heard it on Tuesday's Live first. For all of you who got to where you didn't care about movies, you may suddenly start caring about movies again. Dan, I thought I did. You're saying about the Yorktown, and now I'm back scrolling, and now I'll never know where I was. Because heaven forbid I don't answer a question. Here we go. This is what you mean. Okay, hopefully I'll find my place again. Oh, I'm going to say, Dan, because who's around? Leonard's gone. Harv is gone. Those other writers had nothing to do with the final script. Nick is around. Nick was so clueless. I'll ask Nick and see. because then I can use it. I can use it in my paper column. Now becomes the let's find where we were. Okay, here we go. Yes. So there you go. Breaking news. And right behind Cairo is Christoph. The Europeans are jumping in. There you go, gang. The USS Trimble. Okay, but I would want to know who Trimble was in history. Yes, kind of a quiet little mention, but yes. I know, another Kelvin movie. Well, to me, I'm like, okay, fine. Can we get on? To me, it takes guts to do it. It's like they flipped. Now the place to be experimental is in TV, and the movies are like locked in where they can't be creative. I would so love an anthology movie series. Maybe that has to be TV, the old school thought of a TV movie only cinematic, the way they can be now. Well, Glenn, who asked you? Talking about, obviously there was a neutral zone. It's just, it was a different character and timbre. Why have everything the same? Why not have everything with its own unique, like the DMZ with Cardassia? I love that. Not that it was like I stayed awake at nights worrying about it, but I was so glad that they had it be a DMZ with the Cardassians rather than another Cardassian neutral zone. Now that's the way, and that's what I thought we originally had. But anyway. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's yes, Dan. And you can come up with whoever Trumbull was. That he's just an early explorer. Fine, whatever. Yep. Exactly. I was like, was Wrigley? Was this an homage to the chewing gum? Was there something around Wrigley Field in Chicago that used to be a theme park? I haven't. It's probably, it may be on Memory Alpha, the root source, but otherwise it might be a little. We might have to investigate what's his names. Ships within the Captain Proton Holosuite program. Oh, okay. Pulling for a Starship Harlan? Not a USS Ellison, but a USS Harlan? Okay. You know that ship so well. You're on a personal notice. A lot of people in NASA say they've been inspired by Star Trek. Yes. So it could very well be that Starfleet, being an evolution of the current space program, has people inspired by that sci-fi franchise as well. Well, you need look no further than the fact that the 11-foot Enterprise and the Klingon model and other things are all in the Smithsonian in the air and space. So yeah, you don't have to put a lot of explanation. They get some pushback. That there's still a little nerdy bunch out there that says there's no room in air and space for the Enterprise. But if you talk about the imagination that fueled the real life people, then absolutely. Zephram, the end of that, you said Zephram Cochrane confirmed that Star Trek exists in its own canon. Are you talking about the line in First Contact? The cringy line? That was a little S, little T in the dialogue, if you get the script. It was not a capital S, capital T for Star Trek. You're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek. He didn't say Space Patrol. He said Star Trek. Oh, you've got it black, maroon, and yellow. Well, bless your heart, Narda. Yes. Thank you for keeping Trekland Treks alive there in the Outback in whatever color you want to have. I appreciate it. Hopefully you get a lot of questions. You are not a fan of the USS full name. Sorry, Larry. Okay. I'm just saying the U.S. Navy has full name ships. And okay, there you go. Kun means something obscene in Farsi. That's interesting. But that kind of thing's going to happen anyway, in unintended consequence. Hopefully you can, as things go global, it's more of an issue. Long-range sensors have detected the end of the chat. Hi, Brandon. It's been a while, I think. The USS Margaret H. Hamilton As in the woman who played the Wicked Witch of the West and was Cora the coffee lady for... That would be interesting. Oh, ho, Christoph, that was real news. Viacom CBS renames itself Paramount. Thank you. There are more articles, more without global suffix than with it. Thank you. If I haven't told the story, we've been gone so long here. The stupid branding story of, and this was when, what's his name was still alive. Redstone. When he was still alive, they opened up the retail store to compete with the Disney store and the Warner Brothers store, and they called it the Viacom store, and it bombed. And if nothing else, the fact that they didn't call it the Paramount store, like, use the brand that people know. No, Viacom. The old people know Viacom that's who does the Andy Griffith reruns, especially in the 90s. Like, Viacom sounds like it's that corporate gargle thing that you barf up. Paramount, because it's peak entertainment. So there you go. And look here, kids, we have come full circle. I could have done a whole theme on this. We have come full circle. Finally, we have replaced 2005. We have gone back to Paramount. So now we can talk about Star Trek and just say Paramount and not even have to say Paramount Plus as the movies come into fruition. So how about that? Lots of news today. I'm so glad to have been here out of it with you. Okay. Boy, you guys are Google happy today. A lot of news coming from them. Paramount Plus has 32.8 million subscribers. Okay. That paywall, that Wall Street Journal has a payroll. See, this is my Austrian Portales are just all over it here. And TTLers and livers. Yes. Here we go. The company will be known as simply Paramount. Well, we've sure come full circle. The legal name is technically Paramount Global, but then they're going to take. Okay. There was a Federation grand jury on Inferno Prime, that pompous self-inflated globe terror. I got the idea that was like a district, like there's many of those, and that was a local one, so they could have citizens go local and not have to, not just from Inferno Prime, but that's a good point. That's a good point. There we go. And we're echoing the news headlines. As I was saying, not only just to say Paramount, but to say Paramount again. About the time I finally got used to saying CBS, I can go back to saying Paramount again. And now you can read all those bashing letters and statements from fans in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, Paramount this and Paramount that. And it will all feel at home again. Although I know it'll be sad to give up P+, which will still be the name of the streaming channel, I take it. That's not going anywhere. Oh, let's see. You're all Space Guys on some kind of astral roam. Yeah. The USS Margaret Thatcher, the USS Winston Churchill. See, I knew this. Margaret Hamilton that developed onboard flight software for NASA's Apollo program. Absolutely. I knew there was another one, but I just, please, we can do it for the Wicked Witch and Cora, though. Absolutely. Yes. Totally agree with you, Melanie. The women on Hidden Figures deserve to have starships named after them. Abso-friggin-lutely. But the point is, there's a lot more that deserve at that level. They need to be elevated in our current context to stand out. But 200 years from now, there'll be lots of pioneers of their vein and stature that need to be. And once again, they're all of Earth. Don't you think that there are Hidden Figures, women, and many more of all genders and sexes and races from all the Federation planets that deserved. I'm just amazed we hadn't had a story yet about protesters picketing Starfleet because of all the human-centric everything. Representation matters. That's wait. Oh, are you waiting on that? May be a long wait, Stingray Travel. Paramount Parks coming back? Well, there is a Paramount Parks, or is it Viacom? Anyway, there is a tiny branch, and Dave Rossi still has a job with tiny Paramount Park. They don't own any free. They're there to be when somebody wants to, like China or Jordan, when they want to license a Paramount property, they're the people that give them the imagery and coordinate with them so that it's licensed and it's official and it's not an abomination, and it doesn't do the brand ill justice, that it's accurate, and that, you know, they're the brand owner. They get to say how it looks and feels, and they'll cooperate and work together and coordinate, but they also get to say no over, you know, IP issues, things, just the same way it used to be. The reason everybody at Paramount was involved in the experience, and from Rick Berman down, what Rick said went. He had the ability to overrule what the builders, what Landmark was doing, including the story of the ride, the first ride. Oh no, we're not doing this garbage. It's going to be much more in-universe centric. They should have named the Discovery AI Ada, not Zora, for Ada Lovelace, or maybe Alan for Alan Turing. But Zora sounds so alieny. Zora will always sound so alienish. You know, like the woman from Tiburon, the United the 10 Tribes of Tiburon, whatever they were, from Savage Curtain. The other Zora. Yes, technically this is what just happened. So Cairo, yes, you're right there. And Kurtzman will get another signing bonus. Like Super Bowl winning quarterback. Hey guys, I'm at the end of the chat here. I think this has been an awesome day of discussion. I hope that was just an outlier, and I hope we've had good video all day. But thanks everybody, man, for sharing so much and popping in. There you go. See, you guys and gals and peeps, everybody, you know, hang around Trekland. You never know what's going to happen. I tell you, come to my booth at a con. You never know who's going to wander by. And yes, names became the thing of the day here. There we go. All righty. So, everybody, I want to repeat. Can I repeat, Paul? I've got your attention. Talk about naming. That this month, our third Trekland Live special, Trekland Tuesdays Live special, is next 24 hours until midnight tomorrow-ish. $150 discount on a Trekland Treks day tour. I'm thinking we'll start opening up in May unless we have some other wacky thing happen. So get with me now so you can make your travel plans. We can work together on what your day tour, or hey, if you want to splurge and make it too. If you want to be in LA connected to Comic-Con down in San Diego, if you want to be, there's a whole world where we talk about traveling, going to other places. I know, maybe it's been totally wiped from your memory banks, as Spock would say in the 60s. But if not, it's out there. Or maybe on your way to Vegas, or maybe you're coming out to LA for anything, any kind of vacation or business trip, and you've got an extra day. Come arrange your own unique away team. I'm going to get the promotion and advertising ramped up again, but I wanted to jump in here with you guys live and bring that up. That's today's 24-hour, this month's third Tuesday, Trekland Tuesday's third Tuesday live special. Okay. Otherwise, yes, once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreons. Thanks so much, folks. And if you want to jump in yourself, patreon.com/TreklandLive. They take it up into the month, $5, $10. I keep it simple. Simple shout out. I really, really do appreciate all. It's not my end. I have other companies. I have other things that I do, but I wanted to give away a small way here, an easy way for everybody who comes in on the live streams with us to jump in and do that. I don't even promote that on Saturdays. I just keep that to us here. But on Saturdays, I will say Trekland Live, Life Support Live. with Dr. Ollie and Dr. Trek. Yeah, maybe we'll get a Starship name for Ollie. Going boldly through uncertain times every week. We do have a lot of fun. You might even learn something while you're here. We do have a heck of a time. If I started going down the list, Life Support Live has its own trademarked and patented drinking game. It's true. It's on the backs of some mugs. Anyway, you'll have to join us at Saturday morning Pacific time at 10 a.m., 1 p.m. Eastern, and around the globe. And I do want to remind you once again about Trek Files. The Trek Files is our podcast from the Roddenberry Network. The Trek Files on Facebook is where you can also get the documents, podcast.roddenberry.com. There's been a lot of comings and goings at the Roddenberry podcasts. So there are some new folks coming in. They're not all Star Trek centric, but sci-fi genre and bettering humanity as best we can and our outlook on it. A lot of good podcasts at Roddenberry. Give a look if you would. I think that's all. Aside to say, if you're watching me now, please like and subscribe, or go over and subscribe on YouTube and share it around. Tell your friends. Larry Nemechek's Trekland is that. It's Facebook here, and it's also my Instagram. Love for you to jump over there. It's just Larry Nemechek at Twitter. And of course, portal47.net. If I got you intrigued, let me know. Write me. I don't have a graphic. It's Larry Nemechek, Larry at LarryNemechek.com. Email me. Let me know you want to take advantage of that special for a trek, or don't jump in here. Send me a separate message on Facebook where you're at, if that email isn't going to do it for you. Other than that, folks, thank you so much for joining us for another Tuesday. Everybody have a glorious, we had a heat wave here for the Super Bowl, and now we're back into the 50s. So I know that's a heat wave compared to some of you, but the days, the weeks are going by. We've got Trek as far as the eye can see. It may not all be your favorite Trek, but we've certainly got some newsworthy stuff coming down the pike again. I can't wait for it all. Thank you for sharing some of it with me here every Tuesday or on Saturday, or maybe 3 and 4 plus times a month if you're in the portal, or every week on the Trek Files. I've got an announcement coming. We still can't pull the trigger on this one announcement about the Trek Files, but hopefully next week we can. So until then, everybody, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, hey, everybody, please, 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 please stay safe, do all the things, stay woke, check your sources, and most of all, Trek well, everybody. T Public Store.